Yo, how is it going, everyone? Welcome back to the latest episode of the Slot One Super Podcast. I am your boy, the Masked Ningen, your main host for today's episode. I am joined, of course, by my co host Minato's Flash. How's it going, my dude?
Going pretty well. Ready to talk about Dokkan and everything that's happened. A decent amount of stuff has happened this April,
Mm,
more than you probably would think, honestly. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, quite a lot of stuff to go over. Also, shout out to our boy Vilify. He can't be with us this week. He had some stuff to attend to. Nothing serious, so he's all good. But yeah, he can't be here this week. So it's just Minato and I, and we will be going over all of the goings on since the last episode. And of course, when we had the last episode 2 weeks ago, I think it was the day of the episode, we'd had the teaser or like the leak, I guess, right? That Cell was going to be the next Dokkan Fest. And that was, I think, the day of the previous episode. So we've got all of that to talk about, all the EZAs, all that good stuff, as well as some part two speculation at the end, because we will potentially be seeing news on that in the next couple of days. So a bunch of stuff to go through on today's episode. Before we start, of course, if you want to help to support the podcast, you have any questions, shout outs, anything like that, we will be reading out all donos, super chats, all of that stuff at the end of the episode, as always. So if you get those in before the end of the episode, those will all be read out. So let me just make sure I've got the what's the betting I click to go over to this and we don't have the right image up first. Yeah, there we go. We will be talking about this guy, but first of all, we're going to talk about STR Cell. So, STR Cell, like I say, the day of the last episode, he was leaked via Twitter that he would be the next Dokkan Fest. We didn't know exactly what sort of form, other than assuming it would be a perfect cell. We speculated, I think, maybe during the episode, or I know we all did individually, about what his leader skill could potentially be. And I think a lot of people were surprised by the final product that we got with this STR
Yeah.
cell. So yeah, I'll just
Well, the
post it
chat
over to you
says I'm a
straight
little
away.
quiet. Yeah.
Let's turn you up a little bit then. But yeah, I'll pass it over to Minato straight away. So what are your thoughts on the April Dokkan Fest STR cell?
Yeah, so I'm not really a big fan of this guy of his design. I think he has he could look good as like an individual soul unit, but I think the point of this character is to be a tournament participant's leader. Like you can very clearly see he makes a domain to buff tournament participants. He wants tournament participants for his intro. He does eventually become a quote unquote slot one character, but I think that they messed up in a lot of different ways where he buffs many of the enemies that exist in the game right now. So let's say Jiren, both of the Jiren
Yeah,
fights, they are tournament participants category enemies. He does buff the actual hardest fight in the battle hardened foes because they're android enemies, so they actually get the 15%, the cell max and the two gammas. All of those bosses get buffed. And since it's a pure 15% buff for them, their stats as bosses are already pretty high. So it just makes it very difficult for a lot of your other enemies, or a lot of the, yeah, other characters on the team as well. And then in the blue Super Saiyan Blue Goku fight, this guy's type disadvantage. So the other cell without his like revival skill passive,
yep,
when it's his own, just gets decimated. Because it's like they designed this guy in a way where you want him to be the slot one character, where you put him in slot one, and then if he dies, he'll revive, and then he gets slot one for you because he'll get the guardian reduction. But the other cell not getting that, it's just very annoying because then you can't run that cell slot one. So like, let's say you get like maybe you could put tech cell slot one in certain situations, but let's say an example where the STR cell on the rotation with tech cell gets his revive off, and
mm,
then the other cell that is slot oneing with AGL cell, you have to put AGL cell in slot one, right? Or else in the hardest parts of the fight, STR cell can't even take normals in slot one before he attacks. So it's just like there's a lot of questionable stuff with that revive skill that really just takes it apart. I really hate again after the character's revive skills activated part of his kit. If that was just again for both of the cells, he actually would be quite considerably better because then his role as a slot one kind of team helper character would be more fulfilled. But then you take him off the tournament participants team, he might not get his intro. So that means his damage, which is already weak, is even more pathetic realistically. And then he's just like a mediocre character with the revive that doesn't really do anything for the team or protect the team. While a character like Int Fat Boo is a character, is like, okay, well, at least this guy, if he revives, he will be able to come back and provide you a ghost usher for the entire rotation. Just as another example of another like self-revive character, or maybe other revive characters that just protect the team in itself. It's just like you use him off his team, he becomes considerably weaker and
Mm,
he loses that niche, but then he can't do that niche on his own team really nicely. So what is he actually doing? Um, I just have a
yeah.
lot of disdain for this guy because it's literally all because of that part of the passive. Even if he just guarded, or if you just switched around the 30% reduction on super and then the 15% reduction in the guard, like you switch those two around and he would actually still be way better.
Yeah.
Um, because that guard especially adds so much.
Mm,
Uh, Yeah, just poor Sal. I think they just missed the mark a little, and dropping him right now where he's buffing all the hardest bosses does
yeah.
not help.
Yeah,
So
that's something I
he
didn't even think of.
just
Like when he
yeah.
first dropped, like I was so focused on him and what he was doing, and then yeah, the fact that he's actually buffing the like Universe Survival Saga stages, like enemies. But yeah, I absolutely agree. Like I am not a big fan of this guy at all. I know we were both joking with like Truth when he released about how low we think this guy is on like a sort of top 10 list compared to some of these other newer characters. And it is exactly right. Like it's just disappointing, I think, to see with a character that comes out like this, especially because he's the first like post anniversary like 220 extreme leader. But then like not only does he not really lead a team that is like designed to be fully extreme with him having the tournament participants buffs and stuff like that, but then as the leader himself, he has that weirdly designed revive condition thing. Because it's just like when like when Tech Goku came out, right, for worldwide, and it was like, yeah, he's really good, but the other one on the team, if you're running him as a leader, then suffers massively from not getting the revive. And what's disappointing is that since then, we've had characters come out that have now had, like when this character or any character revives, they get the main buff that they need. And like you said, that's the big issue, is like he obviously does have that one part of his mechanic where regardless of which cell revives, they get the 30% extra damage reduction against the super, but it's the guard and extra little bit of damage reduction against everything across the board. That's like the most important part. So the cell that doesn't get that is then at like a massive disadvantage against some of these tougher enemies. And yeah, the fact that like, because I've seen even with my cell, like I used him a little bit more and I've tried him out off his own team and like with some other units and stuff. And like on his own post revive, like he can be really solid, but it's just the fact that as a leader for the team, not only is his team kind of wonky, but like he wants to be the slot one on that team ideally, but only the one that revives can really do that, which is disappointing.
Yeah, and personally, I just him being around tournament participants also just kind of sucks. I think it should have been around androids,
Hmm.
or I mean, even androids. It's like Cell doesn't really work with other androids beside himself,
Yeah.
and like Android 13 or something.
Yeah, something like artificial life forms where you've got like the boo characters,
Artificial
other
life
characters that
forms
actually have
would
like big bad bosses and stuff. Like,
that's actually what I wanted. Artificial
mm,
life forms. Unfortunately, they just went with tournament participants, which, I mean, realistically, I don't know why they really went with tournament participants, but we'll just see. Maybe it just has to do with the part two LR. We could talk about that later, but
yeah,
yeah, no, the cell. I mean, even like damage wise, he's like doing like 20 to 30 mil attack stats, high chance. It's like it's decent damage, but he's not really doing crazy damage or anything. Like you can make the physical super Kalkin Goku in certain situations harder. Which I mean, he's not as good as his Cell, so maybe I shouldn't even bring him up. But like Cell's not bad. I just
yeah,
think if he gets a setup with another Cell on a 220%, and it's like you could run just that Cell and then like AGL Cell or Tech Cell,
yeah,
and then you don't have to worry about the front Cell. It could be a lot better, but then like again, this guy could run into the issue where his domain clashes with other characters. He could run into an issue where maybe he doesn't start off with EGL cell, and then he doesn't get his tournament participants like additional and crit chance, and
Yeah.
he just doesn't build up in time, and he looks weaker. Like there's a lot of issues that can happen because he's designed around this team, but he can't perform on this team as a leader. So
Yeah, exactly. Just a disappointing release. And again, I think, like I said, one of the big things is obviously we were hoping for, the first like extreme 220 leader to be like this team that you were going to be able to then throw all of these like all the big best extreme units on and stuff like that right after the anniversary being so super class focused. So it's just a little bit disappointing that his team is not really that. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Like he is a good unit. That's the thing. As much as I dislike a lot of aspects of his design, he's definitely not bad, but he's just not as he's not quite what we would have wanted him to be, both as an extreme unit and as a cell unit. So I guess we'll have to see. Yeah, the rest of the celebration has had some other interesting stuff linked with tournament participants, and like you said, we'll talk about the part 2 LR towards the end as well. But yeah, STR Cell overall solid, but a bit disappointing, I would say. But we did get, of
yeah,
course, the
mediocre.
yeah, he's mid. So
Yeah.
we got the two main EZAs for the first part of the celebration, which I think a lot of people were anticipating, especially hoping for, because obviously linked to this cell directly. We got the EZAs for the STR Goku and Gohan and the AGL cell. So I know we've had some different experiences. We talked about it a little bit already. I'll let you decide which one we talk about first. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the first one of these
I mean,
EZAs.
I guess we could talk about EGL Cell. I think we'll have a more aligned agreement with this
Mm-hmm.
guy. And then we could talk about Goku Gohan, which, spoiler alert, but we don't necessarily agree on the, like, where we would rank this guy or how good we think that character is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, with that character Goku Gohan, it's gonna be someone people are either gonna like him or people are either not gonna like him. I think that's kind of the general idea. Or maybe they'll like him but not as much to an extent, right? I think there's like a little disconnect there. Well, so I think it's a little more variable. Um, Sounds good, right? I do like this guy. I just feel like with him being on the STR Cell team, it holds back a little
Mm.
because STR Cell doesn't really do a lot of damage himself. So it feels like this guy is kind of like the one carrying the damage on that cell team, which definitely is cool, right? This guy is able to do some really nice attack stats. He will stack the attack until he's transformed into perfect cell. And this guy eventually could shoot up to like 50 mil attack stats with that
Yeah.
domain up. It's really really powerful. He can get to some really high defenses too, considering that he has the guard and the 70% dodge chance when he's perfect cell.
Mm-hmm.
Like perfect cell is crazy. Thing about first form cell though is kind of feel like first and second form cell aren't really doing anything special. Like he's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, he has what 67% dodge, he has decent stats, decent attack stats, but like neither of them like stun or lower attack or do anything for battle hardened formidable foes, which I would really like. One thing I would change to this guy is like maybe give him like attack lowering or something,
Mm.
just to make him more useful in short content. Because how I view this cell, and again, whilst I still think he's very good, it's a thing of he's more in tune for like a medium length content. Like the really long like Jiren fights, this guy's guard runs out and he
Yeah.
can't dodge and he's at a disadvantage. And shorter fights, he doesn't really have any tools to really help him around there. Whilst he could brute force the content with like very good stats and everything like that, I do feel like this guy, it's not his place right now. And it almost feels the same thing for STR Cell, where it's like it's not their place right now with how the fights are, and it is a little unfortunate. Now, again, this cell with his guard up, even without the guard up, he gets to some really high defenses,
Yeah.
like just raw defense, to the point where he's able to just eat a lot of these supers anyways. But like if we're doing like, I mean, yeah, because like SDR Jiren, for example, he's doing like a 6 mil attack stat on a
Mm-hmm.
super, but this cell should get enough defense with the type advantage to be fine regardless. Um, and things like that, right? So like he won't have as much of an issue. I just think that it would be nice if he got fights that were more like 6 turns, 7 turns, rather than 10 turns, 11 turns, especially in the STR Cell team.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really my thoughts on this EZA Cell. I like him, but I think that he could be. There's a better environment that could happen for him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like I said, like you said, the first and second form are not like anything particularly crazy. I also think it's weird about like how he sort of switches around the abilities. Like more, I feel like that he did like pre EZA, where he has like a load of dodge in first form, then guard in second form, and then in perfect form he has guard, but only for 3 turns, and then dodge. It's an interesting way of doing it, but like when he gets to
Yeah,
perfect cell, he definitely is very good. Um, I think we talked about
I
it a little
think.
bit before, but like my biggest issue with him is just the fact that like at the moment, especially, it's like he wants to be run on the STR Cell team, and as we've already discussed, like STR Cell and his team has its issues, and obviously for me, it's not like a team that I particularly want to run, and that's like his best team to be on. Obviously, you can pair him up on other teams, like we talked about Tech Cell already. Having Tech Cell as like a slot one against Superclass, like having them on like the Glorio team and stuff like that's quite fun. So using him a bit more outside of the STR Cell setup, I definitely like him a little bit more, I think, than I did when his EZA very first dropped. He's definitely a very solid unit, but yeah, he really wants that cell partner like for the links. And yeah, like you
Yeah,
said,
that's
the
another thing. He wants a
longer
very
fights.
specific partner, huh? That's
Yeah.
where it's like, I like this AGL cell. I just feel like S tier cell not being as good puts him a little more down for me personally than I would like him actually. In fact, I like the Goku Gohan right now better just because not only I just kind of like their overall design better in a sense,
Mm.
but I also think that their setups are just much more favorable towards them. But we
Yes.
could talk about them in a bit.
Yeah, they definitely have better like team setups because this guy realistically is like you're just running him on the STR Cell team or like Glorio's team, as we've said before. Like I made a video about Glorio today. Like his leader skill is just so good for he has so
I
many
actually
of
ran
like the
this
best
guy
units. Like
a little bit on Buhan's team, and it worked pretty decently.
okay,
Him and Tech Cell together in Buhan's team. It's
yep,
not bad.
yeah. Buhan's team is quite fun as well. I'm only my Buhan's only 55%, so I find myself not running him as much against the new like post anniversary stuff because obviously he wants that like if you can't get his domain early, I feel like he can struggle a little bit. But yeah, AGL Cell definitely very good. Be interesting to see like obviously Super Battle Road is a thing that's just not really of any difficulty anymore. But the fact that his EZA still has the like in the first form where he gets all of those buffs against like 3 enemies, but there's basically no events really in the meta anymore where you fight multiple enemies. So that part of
Super
his pass is kind
extreme
of
Super
pointless.
Battle Road is incoming. No
Yeah.
worries. Ultimate Super Battle Road.
Yeah, ultimate super battle road.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, like, I could easily see them bring out another like short event
Mm,
kind of thing going on because they've been doing good recently, but like especially during this 10th anniversary, introducing both short and long content. So I would like for them to continue to release some form of short content in the near future,
yeah.
just because short content can be really, really important for a lot of these other characters that get these
Hmm.
designs. Otherwise, they're not gonna really do well. Like, uh, I'm trying to think of a character that released recently that's like a short content like character. I mean, you can see even like Daima Vegeta, right? As a character that in like Battle Hardened Foes, he has the Scouter and the 90% reduction turn one. There's some characters that are more favorable in shorter content than longer fights, like Inchinemba, I think is another character.
Yeah.
So it depends.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit last time, I think, as well. But I think we definitely are, we're in a good place, I think, like post anniversary with like the variety of the different events. Um, but yeah, we definitely, because like Battle Hardened Formidable Foes is kind of like turbocharged Super Battle Road to a certain extent, right? Because you've got like the first phase of a lot of the fights can be stunned, they can all be attack lowered, and then it's like multiple fights within the same event rather than one long phase. But yeah, some of these characters that would be better suited for shorter events. I guess it's one of those things. The meta with Dokkan kind of shifts between longer and shorter events fairly regularly. So definitely would be interesting to see some more short form events coming up as well. And then, yeah, of
Yeah.
course, we have the STR Goku and Gohan. Um, yeah, it's weird for them because we talked about it a little bit before the show started, but I definitely have them. I have them lower on my list than Cell, but I have them lower on my list than like a lot of other units. And I think a lot of it's just down to my own personal experience and just getting bad luck with the unit. So, um, yeah, why don't you let me know? Tell us what your thoughts are on the STR Goku and Gohan, and then I'll respond, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the sister Goku Gohan, I think if you get the bad R&D with them, it can suck. But I think about it in two forms of content. Again, the Jiren kind of fights, maybe the Goku Black fights, where it's like those fights usually last 10 turns or so. And then I think about them in the short content, the fight that usually lasts like 4 turns or so, right? And the Battle
Hmm.
Hardened Formidable Foes. So it's like, okay, if we take a look at them in Battle Hardened Foes, Goku will have the 70% chance to dodge. It's fine. He will be he can tank normals in some of those situations. I found, if he gets like one or two supers off. I think like a two supers would be the nice sweet spot. But the thing about Goku there is that he can triple super, and he does have the 50% chance to stun in each of those, which I find pretty cool. Right, I really like characters who can stun potentially in this meta, just
Mm.
because in those battle hardened foes, you're pretty much able to stun a lot of those like first phase bosses,
Yeah.
which means that you're able to kind of escape like a lot of the potential damage you'll take, like from the gammas. Like even turn one, gamma two has that crit chance built in, and he
Yeah.
could like hit your characters pretty decently hard. So like there's a lot of those situations where that stun could actually be useful for you. In those fights, which why I was talking about EJO earlier. It's like I would run Goku Gohan over AGL in those fights because Cell could like technically slot one for you because his dodge is able to activate before. Goku Gohan having the stun, I think, is just going to be a more valuable tool that's available. And if you get that triple super turn one, you can actually get Gohan out. And I find Gohan's actually been pretty decent in those fights too, when I was able to get him out. Now, I've probably had better luck than you, where I've been able to use the active skill for Goku Gohan, like I would say averagely in turn five, which
Hmm.
is fair. I make sure I keep him on rotation until I get that, and then if I decide, oh, now I'm gonna float him and make sure my year
Hey
tens get
guys,
a little
must.
bit of stacks, sure. But then if I'm using Goku Gohan, it's gonna be for so like them as a rotation with another character. So then I one thing I really like compared to the AGL Cell is in these longer fights, you can wait to
Mm.
switch into Gohan until it's
Yeah.
advantageous for you. Well, Cell, he will transform and then he's going to lose his guard. And on the STR Cell team, you're going to run out of turns where he has the guard. Like, that's going
Hmm.
to happen. But then, like, if you're running Goku Gohan on the year 10's team, you're not going to have that opportunity happen, and you're going to be able to use the active skill. Even if that's the case, you can just wait and use the active skill to get Gohan out. And Gohan, like these bosses attack so many times, I just haven't had the issues having to take 5 attacks in the total span of 2 turns with him.
Yeah.
Gohan becomes so extremely tanky, especially in those turns where he has the 58% extra reduction. That boy has 88% damage reduction with the guard. He's not taking damage from anything.
Yep.
And then even after the fact, if you have to put him in like slot 2 or slot 3, he still will get the extra 100% raise. He still has the guard, the 30% reduction. Like he's still extremely tanky with that. So like Gohan himself is incredible. Gohan himself is just better than what AGL Cell's putting out, at least in terms of how I value my units.
Hmm.
And he might have a guaranteed super attack counter with Key Blast supers, which um I believe like the Jiren fights are other super attacks being
Yeah.
fair. So
Unfortunately.
it's yeah, unfortunately, like the topo is another super attack, so you might not see it too often, but it is a nice little ability to have effect against those Key Blast supers because there's some bosses that will be able to do it. Um, but yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of the Goku Gohan. I just think that they're in a much better favorable position, which really allows them to highlight their strengths. That's why I like them. But I think the
Yeah.
one disadvantage is the fact that dodge disable is a thing.
Mm.
So Goku at certain points, or like the integer and AoE, which I think at that point you would transform Gohan anyways, but like at certain points, there's a time where you're kind of forced to get the Gohan out because of the dodge cancel,
Yeah.
but that's really it. I feel like it's not a big like. I feel like I personally don't think it's as big of a deal because usually by the point that the bosses dodge cancel, you're gonna get Gohan out anyways, or he already would have been out. So
Mm.
the only exception is like that Super Saiyan Blue Goku fight, which you're pretty much not gonna run this guy
Yeah, because it's
because
dodge disabled for the whole thing and type disadvantage. But that's fair.
yeah.
That's not something I'd like hold against them. Like there are specific events, like specific bosses where you just can't run like certain units, right? Because they just don't work in that event, and that's that Goku fight for this Goku and Gohan. But yeah, I mean the thing is with them, I'm kind of torn. Like I say, I put them quite low on my list because of some of the issues that I have run into when using them. But at the same time, like it's weird to say, I guess, because I do really like them, and like I really liked this unit when they first came out. Um, in fact, it's funny because I remember when they first came out, it was back when people were complaining about them and complaining about the Goku, and it was like the Broly Red Zone thing, and then you like no itemed the Broly with their team like first try.
Yep.
Because yeah, their team they are really good. And I do really like them. I love the fact that they fixed the biggest issue with the Goku, which was that they actually gave him the ability to get an additional super in his passive. So then if you do get like the God RNG, he could just super 3 times in the first turn, and then you don't need to worry about the rest of like his rotations because you've got that exchange ready to go like when you want to use it. The only things that I found which can be a little bit annoying, and again, it's like I said, we talked about it before. I say it when I make my tier lists, but obviously it's down to my own personal experiences in the game. And I did do when they first came out, the EZA. I did a whole bunch of red zone runs like back to back to put together like a compilation. And the thing with this unit is when they work really well and they can look really, really good. But there can be a few odd things that can come up that kind of mess up their flow, and then they can end up looking really bad. One of those things can be like if you don't have Goku on turn 1, for example, and then you don't like quite finish off the boss like in the first phase. So Goku comes in on turn 2, the boss is like almost dead. Goku is not a unit that can go in slot 1, depending on the event, right? If it's early enough, you could on like a red zone or something, or like you could probably get away with like risking it. But because he's not really supposed to go in slot 1 in something like difficult like formidable foes, if he's not on turn 1, you can't really put him in slot 1 on turn 2, and then he doesn't get to attack, so he doesn't get any of the build up for towards the Gohan exchange. And then it's not something that makes a huge difference, but the thing with like the stun in the battle hardened foes thing is obviously like depending how the next turn goes, as long as he dodges all the attacks that come his way, I suppose it doesn't really matter whether he gets the buff or not. But it's almost like a little bit counterproductive with the fact that like if he stuns the enemy with his super, then it means he doesn't get the opportunity to dodge one of their attacks and then get that buff. So then on his next appearance, he doesn't have that buff. And so then if he doesn't stun because you're in like the second phase of the fight and then doesn't dodge the first attack that comes his way, he didn't get a chance to dodge in the first turn because he stunned the enemy, and then he can end up getting hit like quite hard. Obviously sometimes that's not an issue, and obviously like we said, because he now has that thing in his passive, you can just get lucky and he just triple supers on the first turn and then you don't really need to worry about it. But the other thing that can be a little bit annoying is rotation locking for like both parts of the card, right? Because especially with Gohan, if you get Gohan out on like his first turn and you get hit like, you know, let's say, I mean, it depends because you would probably try not to bring him out in those kind of situations, but like you bring him out on his first turn and he only gets hit twice, and then on his next turn he gets locked in a slot where there's only like one attack, and then it's like he then actually can't get his full passive unlocked. So again, these are things that don't come up all the time, but they're things that I sort of take into account because it means when you run this unit, there are going to be the odd occasions where they just don't work the way they're supposed to, and they don't get like all of their abilities to actually go off, and like they don't flow with the way their kit is supposed to work. And it doesn't happen every time. Like I say, I used them in a bunch of different red zone runs, and there were some runs where obviously they did really well. You get Gohan out, and then he's a beast. Like, I think if the card just started off as Gohan, I feel like people said this maybe back when they first came out as well, but like if the card was just Gohan and he just started off as that, then I think he would probably be ranked like way higher. And they have put a lot of work into the Goku side to make him better. But obviously, he is kind of stuck at, I think from what I've seen, like using him when I did the initial runs and that, he's at about 1.5 million defense after supering. And then the dodge is his only defensive mechanic. He has no guard, no damage reduction. So dodge disable events obviously will be bad for him. But as we said, if it's something like Goku that just dodges, disables dodge for the entire event, it's one of those things where you just ideally don't run him in that event, right? But in the events where he can dodge, the 70% is good. I like the fact that he is designed in that way where he has his full stats for the first like 5 turns, which should be all the time you need to get those attacks in. But that can be the thing, like I say, the other issue, like because he only has that boost to his stats for the first 5 turns, if you do get that issue where he comes onto the rotation and then for whatever reason he doesn't get to attack, then you can unfortunately get to the point where that first part of his passive boost runs out and then he has the lower stats and dodge chance and everything, but he's not yet ready to exchange into Gohan. And again, it's not something that happens all the time, like I already said, but I think that's the thing that kind of lets the unit down for me, is I really like them. I think they're really fun, and when they work really well, but there's just those few like things with them that can go wrong that just kind of mess up their performance. And you might be lucky and that like never happens when you use them, but it is something that I have seen happen a few times in runs. But I mean, overall, I do like them. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know what your thoughts are on any of those points, but
I mean, I think it's very fair because there will always be situations where, bad luck will happen or, like I could see where you could run into those spots with the playstyle of the game is. I just think, it depends like maybe what the team you're running and things like that. Like, especially if you're running the year 10s team, it could be a thing where they will do too much damage and start killing the bosses, or they just barely leave the boss alive, and then Goku's not able to get like any of his supers off because he's obviously not a slot one character. He needs to super attack first. So there is situations where there can definitely be issues with that. So I
mhm.
can understand where that comes from. It just comes down to your personal experience with the character. I just haven't really ran into that myself, but I think it just depends, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like I said, I think they're a good unit, but when it comes to doing like rankings and stuff like that, it is one of those things. If a unit is like always doing the things that they're doing, then it's easier to place them like higher than a character that if you do get bad luck, like doesn't get to do what they're there to do essentially. But when they do, then yeah, they cook. And I've always been a fan of the Gohan side of the card, so it's overall still a very, very good EZA. They're both very good EZAs. Um, I guess we could talk about very briefly, I guess, because they did it again after this. But of course, we saw with the STR Goku and Gohan and AGL Cell EZAs that they combined them into one Extreme Z battle, which I know a lot of people were not happy
Eh.
about. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that one?
Look, people don't understand that they plan out the amount of stones we're gonna get ahead of time. So, like, they are aware of how many stones they want to give to us. So, if they predetermine the stones already, then even if there are two separate EZAs,
Mm,
they will just take those 30 stones away from somewhere else because they only want to give us a certain amount of dragon stones.
yeah,
So, no matter what, even if you move that EZA to another celebration, they would just take the 30 stones from that celebration and take it away from like whatever missions or whatever, login bonus or whatever, like Twitter campaign, right? They planned this ahead of time. So the thing is, making them two EZAs into one, like you're because people are only thinking about, oh, the 30 stones are missing, but they're not thinking about them planning at how many stones we're getting. So they would just not include 30 stones that we would get somewhere else, for example, right?
yeah.
So because of that, aping two EZAs is only just beneficial for everyone because of the fact that it just one EZA we have to farm compared to two EZAs at the cost of nothing.
Yeah, that
Because
is that
we're
is
not
the upside, right? Only having to do one 30 stage thing instead of two.
like I get where the idea of like, obviously it's the mindset of we lost an EZA, so we're losing out on stones, but technically we're not. They're always going to give us the same amount of stones regardless because they plan it ahead of time.
I think it is like an optics thing, right? Because people see it as like, well, we've lost something, whereas potentially they would have, if for whatever reason, like they couldn't combine them into one EZA, then we just would have got one of them instead of both.
Or they would have
Or
just
less
not
stones from
given us
something
stones
else.
and like the cell bingo thing maybe,
Yeah, because
or
that's what I was going to
like
say. Do you
whatever,
remember,
or bingo,
like,
but
yeah, do you remember last year and like the previous April Fool's thing? Because obviously, normally they do the thing where they advertise like a pretend game mode, and then obviously at the last minute
Mhm.
they give like an excuse as to why they couldn't actually release the pretend game mode, so they give us some compensation or something instead. But I can't remember what it has been in the previous years, but I think when you did all the cell stages, like if you worked out the clues and you obviously accessed the two stages and you did the actual missions, I think did you get like 30 stones or something in total, which
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we got for previous years for like the April Fool, like quote unquote compensation, but like that 30 stones right there is essentially like the stones we would have gotten from an EZA. So it could have been the case that if they did two separate Extreme Z battles for Goku and Gohan and Cell, that then we just didn't get those missions, right, in the Cell challenge. So like we'd have just got one stone for beating the stage and then that would have been it, right?
Or like, the we got a lot of stones during the same day campaign, like the daily missions or the mission tab thing that they do every month now.
Oh yeah, the
Like
panels, yeah.
they yeah, they could have just taken the stones from somewhere else, and
Yeah.
that's probably like that's their business. They plan these things ahead of time,
Hmm.
so that's just how it is. They're making them two EZs aren't just going to be like, oh, well, now we have to just give the 30 stones and not do anything about it. That's not how it would work. It is an optics thing essentially. But
Yeah, it's just something. It
yeah,
looks like we're getting less, and so therefore, obviously, people respond negatively to it. But I think I said because I made a video about it, and that's one of the things that I said is like at the end of the celebration, if the total stones that we get is the same as it would have been, like last April or in a previous celebration or any set like filler celebration like this one is, then I don't really mind how they're distributed as long as it's as long as we get that same amount of stones in the end. But I think it's just the fact that it looks worse because it looks like they're reducing
yeah,
what would have been two things into one. And I think especially coming off the back of the anniversary, that was a big thing that I saw a lot of people saying. Obviously, the anniversary being I think the most generous celebration that we've seen so far, right? I think it gave out the most stones of like any previous anniversary. So then people see like going from that into then like, oh, but now we're losing out on like an extra EZA, right? It just has that it looks bad even if it isn't actually like in the long run kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's just how. Like, I don't think it's ever going to be a conception that will be taken away, just because, like, most people are gonna be playing the game closer to a casual thing, and this is
Hmm.
just me, like, be kind of noticing it. I mean, the biggest reason why we kind of would know that they pre-planned the stones is because one, like, they pre-plan everything, of
Hmm.
course, like everything is pre-planned in this game, like months ahead. But the
Yeah.
two, well, like we know because remember that one time that they sent the top grossing notification on global for the LR Super Saiyan 2 Tech Gohan that one December, and then it was a mistake, and then they had to give out the stones because they're like, "Oops, we didn't mean to do that," because it was already scheduled out because they expected to hit top grossing, so they pre-planned
Yeah.
the stones that we would be getting. So yeah,
Oh yeah, I'd
but yeah,
forgotten all about that.
yeah. I mean that's like that's where I started really thinking about. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it makes sense that they would pre-plan everything, but
Mm.
that's it. That's just they pre-plan everything, and like you said, if we're gonna get the same amount of stones or more than what we usually do during the celebration, anyways, then it's still just a net win.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it is. It is just that typical, like, I guess it is just like a typical human thing, right? It's like even if the total at the end is better, people see the immediate thing and it looks like we're getting something less than before. But obviously, like I took a look back at like the last April celebration, we only got one EZA anyway, whereas this time we've gotten like six, even though it's two Extreme Z battles in total, we've gotten like six EZAs, whereas last year it was like one big one and then like a couple of sub EZAs, whereas this was like four big ones and a couple of sub EZAs. So I think in total, compared to the previous April celebration, I think we still got more stones in this one than we did last year anyway, right? So yeah, as long as it all adds up to being the same or more overall, then I don't have too much of an issue with it. And like I said, especially for making content, like I want to get the EZAs done so I can start using them in like for videos and stuff, right? So only having to do one 30-stage EZA instead of two back to back, because I think we're at a point now where we all hate having to sit and play through 30-stage EZAs to be able to use the unit again, because people get excited, especially when the EZA is really good, and if it's like a unit that you used to love, like when they first came out, and then they get their EZA, and it's like you have to sit and play through the 30 stages sometimes for like an hour to then actually be able to use the unit with their EZA. And so then when we get with two events, you've got to do both of them before you can EZA both the characters. So that is the one like silver lining, right? Only having the one stage to do. And yeah, they've done those ones
Yeah.
in the past, like Heroes or like some of the sub EZA ones where you just get like 5 characters worth of medals from like one thing, which in terms of player time and everything is definitely better. Plus, I guess we'll talk about that as we move in to talk about them, but I love the fact that they just straight up put in missions to get the medals for the sub EZAs for this next set of characters that we're going to talk about, because having to farm sub EZAs is another massive pain. So I think that was definitely
I
a
mean, at
big
least
W.
they gave us those missions. That's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, heroes mentioned, exactly. Hashtag heroes agenda, let's go. Uh,
Dude, Heroes EZA's 8 characters at once. They're missing out on a lot of stones, bro. They're taking stones from us, man.
I know, right? Because we're getting I think it's like 7 heroes units this time, so only one Extreme Z battle instead of 7. That means we're missing out on like 300 stones. Outrageous.
This is crazy.
But yeah, so of course those other EZAs and similar situation with the 2 units in one Extreme Z battle, and then sub EZAs which they gave us missions for, which, as we've just been saying, like again from a player time consuming kind of thing, was pretty awesome. The fact that you do like one 30-stage Extreme Z battle and then you can just instantly EZA like 4 characters, that was definitely appreciated, that aspect of it. So that brings us to these newest EZAs that we've just gotten, which is AGL, PyCon, and Tech Gen Ember, the previous New Year Dual Dokkan Fest. And then finally, they remembered the existence of the Super Kaioken Goku and STR PyCon, or Int PyCon if you're on JP. So yeah, we've got 4 different units to talk about. Again, pretty like we did with the Cell and the Goku Gohan. I'll let you decide where you want to start, whether it's with the one you think is the best, one you think is the worst, someone in the middle. Who do you want to talk about first?
I think we should talk about the PyCon just because he sucks.
Or the STR or slash int one.
STR PyCon. The STR slash.
Oh,
I haven't
boy.
used him yet, but from what I see, he sucks. I don't even think we have much to say.
Yeah.
He's just restricted to Otherworld Warriors, tournament participants. I mean, like, tournament participants like is a mediocre team because STR Cell's mid. And the thing about this guy is like, but like even with the Cell's team, you want to run him on rotation pretty much. I mean, you could run him as floaters, but then who are you running on rotation with PyCon? It's like PyCon wants to be on rotation, but who are you using them on rotation? You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like unless we get like LR PyCon and then it's like turbanless in the name, and then he's like a slot 1 for the part 2 LR.
Yeah.
Like I don't see the idea for this guy. Otherworld Warriors. I mean, what I will say is that they've been giving us a lot of Otherworld Warriors kind of stuff recently. I can see this part 2 LR being like an Otherworld Warriors leader potentially. Like Yellow Coin LRs are 170% leader sometimes, so maybe like that could be a decent leader. And then in the future we can get like a 220% leader for him. But yeah, no, I think STR PyCon, I just he stacks, but like 20% stacks in the passive is like it's fine, right? I think that it just takes away from a multiplicative boost you could get from like in passive, because I think that if he stacked on a super attack effect and then just had like, I don't know, 150% attack and defense when attacking or on super, like that would just be better
Mm,
realistically
yeah.
than the 20% stacks in the past. So like I guess the key is nice because eventually he's gonna auto super, but he has his dodge for 5 turns. I guess technically you could get like what 80% dodge turn one, like in battle hardened formidable foes and you great lures attack. Like if Otherworld Warriors got an actual leader and then he could be ran in that fight, I think he could actually be pretty decent in that fight because like imagine him triple greatly lowering attack, and then
Hmm.
he could actually get 4 supers because he would get the
Yeah.
full passive. So realistically, he can get 90% dodge chance. If you get lucky, turn one, and then he lowers the attack 4 times.
That's the
Like
worst part about him, though, is like when I used him, I had at least 2 turns where he did a super and then 2 additional normals, and so then he just builds up like so slowly.
I
Um,
mean, at least like in that fight for the battle hardened foes, like he could potentially be a decent option because if you get that full passive up, he could have like the 70% reduction before receiving an attack, and he has a dodge, he has attack. Like I could see
eh,
like the sauce there, but we need that team for him. Like
yeah,
Otherworld
because
Warriors has to be a genuine team
he's one of
with well,
those.
it is a good team. It just needs a leader.
Yeah, because he's one of those kind of units that we see which doesn't really work, right? Where it's like he has 70% damage reduction before he attacks, but he has like turn one, he has like 160k defense. So
Well, it's before receiving an attack, not before he
yeah,
can
yeah,
attack. But yeah, I mean, his stats will definitely be quite low,
yes.
right?
Yeah, he stacks
Even then
very
to where
slowly, especially if you get bad luck with his additionals, right? Like that's the problem. Because when I saw his details on paper, it was like, oh, okay, he looks like he quite could be quite interesting. Like he actually has stacking as like part of his passive, but in practice, it doesn't work very well. Like he does not stack quickly at all. I think when I did the showcase thing, it was like 330k defense on like
he
turn
needed to
7, which is brutal.
greatly raise instead of a
Yeah.
30% raise.
Mm.
Because it's like you're taking away the raise that you would get. Like he would usually have gotten like maybe even like 150%, 100% when attacking, and then the stacking. But then they put the stacking into his kit, took away the huge boost that he would get, and then didn't put it anywhere else and just made a super attack effective normal one, which would hurt him. Unless if it was like even if he had like a greatly raise, then he gets like 2 supers. That's 100% extra stats that he would get compared to like 60%.
Yeah.
Or if it was I mean, if they really wanted to be nice, they would give that boy a massive raise. But I don't know. I think that's where they messed up. It's like there's not this huge surge of multiplicative stats
Mm.
that will let him be more consistent.
Yeah, something that would be really cool, which I guess I don't know if it would just be too OP, but it's like when I saw that he had, I think I noticed that he had the stacking in his passive before I saw his super attack effect. So like if he stacked on his super attack effect and had the stacking in his passive as well, that would be kind of interesting. Um,
That would actually be a crazy huge step up
yeah, that'd be cool. But
over
like,
time, right?
yeah, because that's the thing, right? He has these additional supers, but like I think we've talked about this before with units, like when we talked about like when Tech Super Trunks came out, right, and having this massive restriction, but then it only gives him like a chance to guard even with the allies, right? So he has this thing where it's like all allies in the same turn have to be other World Warriors or tournament participants, and then it's still only a great chance for him to get additional super. It's like if a unit has a condition like that where you're having to build a certain part of the team in like a specific way, I feel like that should at least that part should be like a guaranteed additional super. Because like I said, like when I used him for his initial showcase, I had multiple turns where he just did one super and then some additional normals. And at least if he had in his passive, if they're going to give him a bunch of additionals that only have a chance to become a super, that part of his passive with the stacking, they could have just made that with every attack rather than every super attack. And then
Yeah.
he's always going to be getting 3 or 4 every single turn. Kind of like STR Kid Boo has, right? So even if he's not supering, at least he is still building up. But Yeah, and because obviously the worst part about him as well is, I guess we could talk about AGL Pycon next, so like go from Pycon to Pycon, is the lack of categories, because obviously Pycon's not on a ton of categories. Like he's on some good ones, like actually I was gonna say I kept making a mistake in my first video. For some reason I thought he was on Accelerated Battle, but he isn't. He's on Battle of Wits, which is how he makes it onto Glorio's team. But obviously this STR Pycon, because he's from the Z like filler arc, he's not on the Movie Heroes team, which is probably one of AGL Pycon's like best categories. So he is really limited for his teams, unfortunately. Yeah, just overall massive fumble, which is a shame because like I remember when the Super Kaioken Goku and the STR Pycon came out on global. Like I remember summoning for them when their banner came out, and they were originally a global first. They didn't come out on JP for a while, and then obviously when they did, they were buffed, and for some reason Pycon was in. Oh yeah, also the random fact, of course, that the STR version, the global version of Pycon, has prepared for battle, which is
Yeah.
very
Also,
interesting.
does he have fierce battle, or does he still have just?
He has fierce battle, yeah.
This is a JP shaft. JP shaft. I'm telling you.
Oh wait,
I'm
yeah. Does
stuck here.
Kaioken Goku have Shattering the Limit then on JP?
Yes, they both have Shatter the Limit.
Because yeah, he has. Yeah, because he
Look
has.
at this
fierce
guy
battle
doesn't
on
pay
global.
attention to the canon timeline.
Exactly, I'm a global main. Global W's in the chat. That's right.
And I pay attention to both, by the way, because I'm nice.
I just forgot that, to be honest. That's
What link does he lose for Prepared for Battle on GP? Let me take a look here.
Yeah, let me get
Is
his
this
links
Supreme
up.
Warrior? It's Supreme Warrior.
Yeah, let me just get him up. I did have him up a second ago, and then I switched over to Kaioken Goku.
He gets Supreme Warrior.
Yeah, he doesn't have Supreme Warrior on global.
He gets
What a link.
Supreme. Oh, a key to and 10%. He gets a link with Jiren and Pycon himself and Topo.
Because that's like, that's one of the things that made him so good. Like when he came out on global, obviously like Super STR was a really good team, and it was all Saiyan characters. And so then you had this Pycon that was lowering attack and also had Prepared for Battle. So like at that time when he came out as a global first, he was actually really good.
Optimal, as they say.
Yeah, with the good old STR Goku team with the Bulma and Vegeta, the STR Pycon. What a great OG Super STR team that was.
God, that Vegeta and Bulma, it was so good.
Yeah, like on release, they were like one of the hardest hitting units in the game when you factored in like a certain amount of counters, which was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the good old Super STR team. But unfortunately, STR Pycon, it just like he's one of those EZAs. I think I said it in my video where it's like a world tournament EZA. So like a lot of these ones that are just really bad, where it's like, what was the point of his design? Like, why did they even remember to give him an EZA if like this was all he was gonna get? Like,
look, we're gonna get LR Paikuhan and then Turbanless as the part 2 LR.
Yeah, he's gonna have the costume change mechanic.
And then he's gonna have Shattering the Limit and Supreme Warrior to fit the GP version. And then
could you imagine if he had Fierce Battle and Prepared for Battle?
No, he would have Fierce Battle, but he wouldn't have Prepared for Battle.
No.
I could see him having, yeah, he probably would just have Gentleman, Experience, Fighter, School Judgment, Shocking Speed. But they would keep Otherworld Warriors. They would probably get rid of, I guess maybe Gentleman. Like Pycon just no longer is a gentleman once he gets
once he takes his turban off. Yeah.
Yeah, once he takes his turban off, right? Well, I guess no, it could still be Gentleman, Experience, Fighter, School Judgment, Shocking Speed, Otherworld Warriors, Free Battle, and Legendary Power. That's the 6 links, right?
Yeah, just lose.
Or seven links.
Yeah,
7 links.
Just lose Prepared for Battle or Supreme Warrior. That would be fine.
Yeah.
I mean that would be kind of interesting. But yeah, this guy just sucks at the moment anyway. Like even in like Festival of Battles, like he's not on the leader skill for either of the 10-year LRs. So like what kind of team builder are you even running to run him in that event? And then he stacks so slowly. Like
give him time, he'll find his purpose.
We will see.
Trust
the process.
I trust my Pycon go. Nah, he's gonna suck.
But yeah, going from the bad Pycon to the good Pycon though. So AGL Pycon, EZA.
Are we just gonna skip Super Kaioken? We should just talk about him first.
Yeah, I suppose we could do that. I guess since they are related, we'll go from.
Yeah, so like Super Kaioken is like decent. He's like a fine character. I just want to talk about him because like I don't really feel like there's much to talk about him. Like he is like interesting in design where he wants the different types of key spheres, right? You know, the STR physical
Hmm.
or the EZA or int. I think he's fine. There are turns you could get him like guaranteed dodge or like a really high chance of dodge, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I feel like he's very much at the mercy of the key sphere field and you can't really control that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you can potentially set it up for him if he's a floater, which could be nice, but like if you're stuck getting like the offensive orbs, he just will die and be a loser and suck. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm going to do 325 mils and then I'm going to get killed by normals." Or you're going to be, you know, the other key spheres, then he has the guard, you know, he has the extra dodge, and he could be a pretty decent survivability character in slot three. But yeah, so I actually think he's decent. There's not really much to say. He has good link set.
Yeah. Yeah, again, remembering back to like when he came out, right? And it's like these units back then, it was like you either had prepared for battle or you had over in a flash, or there was like the odd I think there might have only been one at the time, the int one, like the odd Ultimate Gohan that had shocking speed. And back then obviously links like leader skills not being as high, some not actually even giving like 3 key. Like links were so important, and then this guy came out and he was just like, yep, he's just got every single key link of like all of the Saiyan characters that you would want to use. um so yeah, he was definitely a fun and interesting release. I like him being in the game because obviously whilst he's not in exactly the same realm as them, I'm a big fan of like heroes, like crossover, anything that's just like a unique representation of a character from whether it's one of the side series or the filler or whatever, right? So because he still is the only Super Kaioken Goku in the game. So definitely a cool release, and yeah, he finally got an EZA. We've been wondering about this guy and PyCon for years, whether they even remembered these guys existed. And then yeah, we finally got both their EZAs, and I agree. Like he's a very interesting. I think he's very fun. I like to. It's one of, he might not be the best unit, but I like units that have a sort of like fun, like weird, quirky design. Um, and you made a like I guess the most important point is I like the fact that he has these different sort of like the two different play styles with the different orbs. But unfortunately, as you said, like you have no real control over the orbs that you're going to get because of his orb changing being random, which is obviously, you know, in some situations it's like on paper you think, you know, oh, okay, so I could play him offensively or I could play him defensively, and in some situations like one will be the better option than the other. But then when you use him, it's like, oh, actually I don't have a choice, right? Like he's changed all of these orbs into like tech, so I just those are the orbs that I have to get, right? And he's going to be in defensive mode on this turn, or like he's changed all the orbs to STR, so I guess we're going offensive mode. And then, like you said, I think his biggest issue is that when you are going in the offense mode, like his defense is just really, really bad, and he's just like he's kind of left to just rely on like 50% chance to dodge in his kit, and then I think that's it, right? Like that's the only defensive mechanic he actually has if you're picking up like physical or STR orbs. Whereas if
Yeah.
you get the tech, HEL, or int orbs, you can not only get up to 100% chance to dodge, but he also gets guard. But then I guess like the downside like to that is that then he's not hitting that hard, right? He's doing like 11 to 12, maybe 15 million, depending on like multiple supers. Um, so he's one of those units where he's a bit fun, a bit weird. Like certain situations, he could be super good. Like I have had a run where I've used him, and I think it was. I think it was partly the RNG. I can't remember what Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks he orb changes to something, right? Is it tech or is it Rainbow? I forget.
Super Saiyan Gotenks,
Super
Super
Saiyan
Saiyan
3
3
Gotenks,
Gotenks.
yeah.
The LR, he or Rainbow Orb changes.
Rainbow, yeah. So it must have
Like
been
there's
Goku's one. So he
Rainbow
changed to
Orb
tech.
changers could help him maybe, but yeah.
But that's the thing. Rainbow orb changes can be detrimental to him sometimes as well, because if you have too many, like I put physical path to power Kid Goku on the team as well, and the problem is he doesn't get any buff from rainbow orbs. He gets all of his buffs from the different type orbs. So if there's too many rainbow orbs on the field, that actually hurts him a little bit as well. But I did have a run, like I did get a turn where he was on rotation with the Tech Vegito and like pre-fusion, so it was like the Tech Goku and somebody else, possibly Gotenks. And then yeah, I was actually able to get 10 tech orbs with him, which, it's not something you're going to be able to do every time, but that then gives him 100% chance to dodge. And in some events, like, obviously that's going to be super helpful, but I feel like you could put him into the same sort of bracket as like the LR Broly trio, whereas like you could put him on the team and think like, oh yeah, if I get that turn where, I get the orbs, he's going to be really good. And then he comes onto rotation, you get like a really bad orb change and like you can't get the orbs that you need for him to be good. And then, yeah, he's kind of a sitting duck in some situations. I mean, I've seen some screenshots of him with like absurdly high attack stats if you are getting like a crazy amount of physical or STR orbs, potentially coupled with like support and stuff like that. But it's the fact that then, as we said, in that offensive mode, like he's just really bad defensively. After like you kind of want, if you're going to have one of those turns where he picks up a ton of physical or STR orbs, you ideally want him in a slot where he's then like not taking any attacks, ideally. So he's a very situational unit, but he's definitely fun. I'd rather have an interesting sort of release than like him than a character like Pike, like the STR Pycon, who I feel at this point, like currently, is just like unusable, right?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. STR Pycon sucks.
Yeah. And yeah, the survive KO mechanic as well, which is funny because obviously that mechanic is not something we see get used very often, but it just doesn't work in practice because it's like the only way it works is if it's the final attack of the turn that you're actually taking and then you survive with 1 HP. But obviously the way Dokkan
the thing,
works,
at least he has the dodge, right?
yeah. Like, and of course he does have the on super, like the 80% or less HP gets the extra buff, which can activate mid turn, like because it's on super, which could be quite useful. But yeah, like that's what you really need is if he survives a KO attack, he needs to then dodge like the following attack, and ideally no one else is getting hit. Like if he's not in slot 3, because yeah, that's the thing that I guess with the way Dokkan just works in general makes the survive KO mechanic not particularly useful in a lot of situations, because unless you can actually counter a super or like negate a super or dodge, you can't take 0 damage. So there are so many situations where like, because that's what's crazy to me that they've done it like that, especially now we have bosses that have certain damage thresholds, right, where if you don't do enough damage you just do 0. But for our characters, like with characters with like buffs and items and stuff like that, you can have characters that have over 100% damage reduction, but you don't take 0 damage. So the survive KO mechanic just kind of ends up becoming pointless a lot of the time. There probably will be some like clutch situations. Like if you're throwing this Goku on the team just to use for a bit of fun, you have him in like slot 3, and then, you hit one of those unfortunate, unlucky turns where the boss actually just does the super as the only attack in slot 3, then at least you know that he's not going to die in that scenario. But yeah, he's certainly not the best EZA. Like I didn't put him in my latest top 10 for like EZA to URs. I don't think he makes it into the top 10, but he's fun to use. He's got an interesting design. But yeah, he's definitely not like super crazy like or anything, but
yeah,
just a fun unit. And hopefully maybe one day, now that they've at least remembered he exists by giving him an EZA, so maybe one day we will get another Super Kaioken Goku. But
I mean, who knows, maybe the part 2 will learn.
yeah, I think it would be cool if we got like a transforming one, like if we got Super Saiyan like Angel Goku and then he has transformation into Super Kaioken or something like that.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
We could probably bring it up once we actually get to that, right?
But yeah, so we talked about those two. So I guess, yeah, we'll go on to AGL Pycon now then. So AGL Pycon, obviously, very, very good support unit. Him and Tech Janemba, obviously, just like when they released, they have their similarities with their post-EZA as well. What the interesting thing is, obviously, they have moved into, which I think is very good, like a very good decision, right? They've moved into making their support just a like permanent part of their passive, and then by picking up the type orbs, they're then giving support to an extra 2 categories as well, which obviously makes them very, very good support units. Pycon, I think, is just a very, very good, very strong EZA. Guard for 7 turns means that he has it for the majority of the longer events that we have, like give or take maybe 1 turn. If it's in like a 10-turn event and you're using him as a floating unit, floating him off on turn 7, he's not going to be back until turn 10 anyway. And obviously he has the advantage of having that Ghost Usher active skill, which I think I was trying to remember when I did the showcase for him, but he was the first character to have that, right? Because he came out before the tech
The
androids.
Ghost Usher active?
Yeah.
I think so. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's obviously really, really good. You can only use it when the enemy's above a certain amount of HP, which obviously, depending on how late he comes into the fight, like if you're trying to save it, I guess you could get like bad luck, like bad timing, but that just makes him really good in those events where they do go that little bit longer. So let's say you get to like, you know, as we've said, we've mentioned that event a couple of times now as one of the tougher red zone stages. You get to like Jiren at the end of the Universe Survival Saga stage for the Goku or Vegeta story red zones. And he obviously disables dodge. But like you get to that stage and then you can just use Pycon's Ghost Usher, float him off, and then chances are like you potentially will win by the time he comes back and would have to take a hit. But his post super defense is good. Once you've actually got him at SA 15, shout out to I somehow managed to miss. I think I used Dozing Kais and I thought I was using AGL Kais, but when I did my initial showcase for him, it was only SA 13.
Oh my
So
goodness, Negan.
I was like, why doesn't he raise defense on super? He'd be so much better if he raised defense on super, which he does. So yeah, he can very
Negan, you
regularly
suck.
have turns with like double or
Look at
triple
this guy,
supers.
chat. You see this guy?
I know, right?
Unbelievable.
I don't know how I did that. Like I said, I think I just thought I was using normal Kais, but was actually using Dozing Kais. So I just threw 5 of them in and was right. I was like, right, there we go. He's done. So, but yeah, I think AGL Pycon's very, very good. He suffers from, I'd say his only issue is like the similar thing to the STR one, where he's just not on a lot of categories like that are current top tier teams. Obviously, Movie Heroes works well. He works well on like the team with the tech gods. He works well on Glorio's team. But I think it's if he was on either of like the 10th anniversary fusion like leader skills, he would probably end up being that like top tier like must run support unit on their team. So it's a little bit of a shame that he isn't, but he's still very, very good. So yeah, what do you
It would
think about
be-
AGL Pycon?
Yeah, it would be so awesome if one of them led like Otherworld Warriors.
Yeah.
Pycon is really good. I feel like again, and if we're talking about him in short content, he's able to look really nice with his debuffs and everything. In certain stages, he might be able to seal, which is nice, right? He has that sealing part in his passive. 70% dodge plus the guard. He gets to like and turns. You can look at this guy, and then he's at like 3 mil defense, like with the guard and then the dodge. Like he's supporting, by the way.
Yep.
Like the only thing I would like maybe change about him is like the rainbow orb changing if he had that, but like he doesn't really need it because there's a lot of rainbow orb changers around on the team, and he's not asking for too many orbs. He just wants the 3 type and the 1 rainbow,
Yep.
which is a like he already had that restriction before he EZA'd, but it's really nice to see that obviously stayed over. They actually made that change for Tech in number 2, which is cool.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to like any faults for him, I think he's just I don't really see many faults for this guy. Like in terms of his design, I think he just has a great overall design. He's able to cook so nicely. I just think he's a really, really great EZA, and I actually really liked what they did with him and for him specifically too. Yeah, and then the Ghost Usher is just like super easy to use. Maybe you won't see it in battle hardened formidable foes. Formidable foes is the only thing I would say. You don't see that there.
Yeah.
But you could definitely see this type of like Ghost Usher in like the red zones, which will be huge because eventually if he runs out of his passive, you could just go ahead and use that Ghost Usher and protect himself and that whole team, right?
Yeah, really, really good. And obviously, like the fact that he just gives all superclass characters the 30%, and then he supports Otherworld Warriors or Connected Hope, like the teams that's why it's a shame that he's not on like those teams with those guys, because like both the 10-year fusions are on Otherworld Warriors, and then you've got characters like Beast Gohan, LR Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, like they're all on Connected Hope. So you throw them all together on a team, like again, going back to like something like the Glorio lead, right? Because he has the 10-year fusions and Beast Gohan because of demonic power, stuff like that. You throw this guy on the team, and then not only is he putting out this like really good high level of performance, but then yeah, he's giving those other characters 60% attack and defense, which like if you are running that Glorio setup, so you've got the double Glorio leads floating in slot 3 as well, like the amount of support on that team is absolutely crazy. And yeah, Pycon just fits very, very well onto the team. It has a 70% chance to dodge as long as you get the orb. We're seeing a lot of characters now, especially characters that are providing support, having like 70% chance to dodge. But in that first 7 turns, especially where he's got the guard and the extra defense, like he can actually take hits even if he doesn't dodge, which is obviously really, really good. So yeah, that's the thing. I think the only bad thing about him is the lack of some of the categories. Like otherwise, you just kind of, I don't see any real reason, unless they're not superclass, I guess, to just put him on like any of the teams he's on. And I guess that's the one other point that is strange, because obviously,
I mean, I guess he's on
on
Cell's
tournament
team.
participants, yeah. But like, if that's exactly what I was going to say. But if you run him with STR Cell, like, not only are the cells not on superclass, obviously, but they're also not other World Warriors or Connected Hope, so he doesn't provide any support on that team, which is a shame.
I mean, I don't really care because, well, like, obviously it will matter. Obviously, it would be nice if he had the support, but providing the Ghost Usher to this cell rotation where he doesn't have the guard is so huge.
Yeah, that's true.
So that Ghost Usher is still really, really good for that team.
So yeah, he could still, I guess then, yeah, he could still be interesting on that team. It's just a shame because, like, the support is kind of like the big thing that he's bringing to the team that he wouldn't be doing. Because, I mean, even so, for a support unit, it's not like his attack stats are bad, right? I usually see he's around the sort of like 13 to 15 million, depending on if you have extra support or not, or something like that. And he can often do like 2 or 3 of those in a turn, which for a character who's there to just be providing support, that's still a very decent amount of damage like to be thrown in as well. So yeah, I think he's definitely very good. And then obviously last but not least, we have Tech Janemba. So what are your thoughts on this guy?
I think this guy might be like the best villain release of this year so far. He is really, really good. I was actually kind of blown away a bit by what he's doing. I mean, losing the damage reduction, I think it's the first thing we should talk about. That does obviously suck. I don't think he should lose as much damage reduction. I think there should still be a choice between, like, you know, okay, if you want to transform him or not. There technically is, of course, right? You know, you could keep him transform and float him around if you want. But I don't really think it's as big of a deal when you see, like, okay, when you actually use the transform tech genome and see how good he actually is.
Yeah,
it's pretty nasty, right? Obviously, he's not providing the support anymore, which sucks. But now he starts to rainbow orb change. He has the guarantee guard. He can get an 80% chance to dodge. His defense stat gets so high, like actually it reaches like 4 million, like kind of levels, because he gets 250% when attacking. It's crazy. And and then he also of course gets the 30% of super attack effect. He has just like an additional super attack guaranteed on top of that. He has damage reduction plus the guard. Like obviously the damage reduction is once, but like if he I believe it, like it won't activate after he dodges. So like it's only when he actually takes an attack is what I assume would work like. And that's like, okay, even if you do take an attack after he attacks, he still has like guard plus like 3 to 4 mil defense plus 30% reduction. So it's like, is he going to take damage there? No. And that's if the 80% dodge fails. And I think that obviously the only issue is like if there's dodge disable, but like even if there is dodge disable, like this guy is still going to eat attacks very well. So this guy's crazy.
Yeah, the only downside that I've seen with him so far is obviously like he has that 80% chance to dodge, but in slot 1, if he doesn't dodge a super, I was doing a run earlier, I think it was with the Glorio team going through the Universe Survival Saga stage, and then he got super attacked by physical topo in slot 1 and didn't dodge, and it was just a one shot from there. I can't remember how much it was. I think it was like 1.2 million or something. But obviously that's one of those unfortunate things. It's like 80% chance to dodge and he didn't get it. So
Yeah,
Obviously, he's not invincible everywhere, but yeah, especially
he's
post
not.
super, his defense is really, really good. Like if Topo had supered him after he'd attacked, then would have been fine.
I mean, that would have been double digits, like
Exactly. So
250% plus
yeah,
the super attack
the
effect.
that's the crazy thing. The fact that he starts off with like the 200% stats, like start of turn, and then yeah, you get 100% extra
What?
if you pick up the orbs, and then you get
Mhm.
250 on super. So like the buff that he gets when he attacks is crazy, plus his actual super attack
It's
effect as well. Like
Yeah, because 100% is doubling it and 200% is tripling it. So he's
yep,
even beyond that.
yeah,
And then he has a 30% multiplicative on top of that with each
hmm
super he does. And he gets a guaranteed additional super. So it's like you can get you could basically over triple his defense. And then you can almost double that if he gets a triple super. Like that's
yeah,
why the numbers get so high
yeah.
post super attack.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And then yeah, pre-transformation, like I can see why they've done it. Like I know people don't like it, as you said, like the losing damage reduction. I guess it's like geared towards the design being that then like it kind of almost like you don't have to, like you said, but it's kind of like it almost forces you like towards the like, okay, now it's time to transform him. Um, which pre EZA would have been really annoying because this guy, funnily enough, like when he came out, there's been very few units like it. I think AGL Trunks is like one of the only other ones, but like you just didn't transform this guy, right? Because his like transformed version just was not good in comparison to what he was doing untransformed. So I think that's like the biggest improvement that they've made with this unit is the fact that he is actually good when he transforms. Because while you do lose out on the support, I've had turns of him doing like triple 35 million attack stat supers and stuff, right? So he's plus with all the defense, as you said, but he's not only doing that but also dropping these big numbers as well. The support's really good. Obviously, the fact that he has as much damage reduction as he does before he starts to lose it means that even in like the toughest events, you can basically just put him in slot 1 on his first turn. And then obviously it just depends, because if you want to run him as a support unit, like it depends on what slots he ends up being and where the enemy attacks are, because you can still end up getting through like a fairly decent amount of turns before he gets hit, like all the number of times he does to actually lose all of his damage reduction, right? Because he has, was it 50 at the start and he loses 5%, no more than 50. So he has to get hit
Yeah,
like
so it's
10
like 10
times.
times.
So if
So
you're
like if
putting
it
him
gets to like
in,
5 times, he still has like 75% reduction,
yeah,
which is
exactly. And
still
like
quite a
if you're
bit, but
floating him as support, like post super, his defense is decent as well. Like you can still, if you're just having him as a
right,
floating
say
support unit,
75. No, I'm really stupid. That's not how the math works. It'd be 55, right?
55, yeah,
Am I
because yeah, he
yeah.
starts off with 50, and that's what he's kind of losing 5% from. And then obviously, as long as you get the 3 type orbs, sorry, the 1 rainbow orb, it gives him the extra 30%. And the thing is, like pre EZA, that's what he had, right? You pick up the rainbow orbs and he gets damage reduction. He didn't have any damage reduction in his kit before, so you kind of were always relying on like you had to get that rainbow orb really for him to be decent enough defensively. And of course, the biggest change, like we talked about, I'm sure back in the day, like these, years ago when they came out, I was a straight up like Tech Janemba hater when this guy came out because the 2 rainbow orbs and
I
4
remember
type
that.
orbs, oh my god, the number of times like you just couldn't get the orbs you needed for this guy. And obviously they changed it now post EZA, so him and Pycon are both just 1 rainbow and 3 type orbs, which is just so much better. Like the number of runs back with like Extreme Tech, ESBR, no item run attempts and stuff, the number of times that I lost runs because he wouldn't get the orbs. Because 2 rainbows and 4 type orbs is a pretty steep like ask, especially in a game where we know with like the way Dokkan chooses to target orbs for characters. The number of situations I had where there would be like 2 rainbow orbs and like 4 physical orbs or something, and then because there's like 2 tech orbs next to it, like it'll target that instead because it gives him more key instead of prioritizing like what he actually wants from his passive. And thankfully, since his EZA, that obviously hasn't been an issue now with only needing the 1 rainbow and 3 type orbs, especially because of some of the characters around him that are also doing a bit of orb changing. So yeah, I think that's got to be my favorite change, like with his EZA, is making that orb restriction much better and much more manageable. And obviously, just like Pycon, he gives extreme class allies the 30% support just all the time now anyway. And then the type orbs are giving uncontrollable power or corroded body and mind, which I think is really good. If it was just corroded body and mind, then obviously it wouldn't be anywhere near as effective. But having uncontrollable power, so for things like the Glorio team with the Buhans or like movie bosses, you've got the Brolys, like he's actually giving this extra support to some of the other big characters on some of the teams that he's on. So yeah, tech Janemba on uncontrollable power, exactly. Super fun, like support.
Yeah, and that Broly team could work. I actually used it in the battle hardened formidable foes, and it could actually work. Like that's a team I ran, and it works, right? Because they're shorter fights. So you can have Tech Broly slot one. Like you can have a Janemba's rotation in Janemba plus Tech Janemba.
Yeah.
Then you could have the Tech Broly plus Int Broly. Then float the other characters, or maybe you could run Int Broly still on rotation, both of them. And then you have this Tech Janemba floating, providing 60% support.
Yeah.
And like he has 80% reduction. So even if they super at the end, this Tech Janemba is not gonna die.
Yeah.
So he's actually really good there too. Like I do like this guy. Uncontrollable power for longer fights could definitely use like an option or two.
Yeah.
Like a really like big, massive damage dealing character. Because the thing about like the Broly team is that it is obviously was designed obviously back for like the Goku Frieza fight,
Yeah.
the short Janemba fights, and that's why like it being designed for like the Janemba and Gogeta short fight that we got last year, kind of in that sense, you could see why that team is still good in battle hardened formidable foes. But then when you look at the longer fights, there's not really a character that's super hard carrying like a Tech Vegito. Obviously, if you get a character like that, it wouldn't be as strong as Tech Vegito, but like a character that would really push the team in those long fights.
Yeah.
Because one good thing is that in Broly, you could choose when you want to pop his domains because of the fact it's an active skill. So in Broly's not going to be like, if you put him in slot 2, especially, it's not going to be a thing where it's like, oh, he's going to get absolutely demolished. He still has 60% damage reduction, and then post super, he still has some decent defenses. Like it'll be a point where he's not going to be in danger until he actually has to use the domain. And then that's the thing where, okay, you're already halfway through the fight, basically, and the domain will last for the rest of the battle.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the biggest issue with his team in the new harder events is if you do use the domain straight away, once you get nearer to the end, because obviously out of the domain he doesn't have the guard. I've definitely seen in some of the longer events as you get closer to the end, like Int Broly starts to take damage from like normal attacks. So yeah, you want to kind of save that domain and not just use it straight away, which I think still works well because obviously red zones are still the content where it's a little bit easier at the beginning. So rather than pulling the trigger on that active skill on the domain straight away, you just save it for a little bit. But yeah, Tech Janemba definitely a massive boost to that team as well. I think I did try him out on the Int Broly team, and then you've got like physical LR Janemba, you could throw Buhan on there, like, so uncontrollable power is definitely a very fun category, and we could see some more interesting buffs for that as well. So yeah, out of the 4, I mean, I guess realistically it's probably just out of Janemba and AGL Pycon, but who would you say is your favorite of the 4 EZAs?
I feel like I would have to say I like Janemba a little better. But Pycon is like, I think you could argue Pycon is the better unit overall. It's just that I kind of like Janemba better.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I put them in like the same tier, right? Because they are
like
just they're basically the counterparts to each other, right? On like super and extreme kind of.
I think Tech Janemba is just more fun to me. I think that's why. Like if we're just talking about like which one I like just like enjoy better.
Yep.
If we're talking about like which one's is actually better, I would still say Janemba is in a better spot right now, but Pycon is the better character.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like Pycon is just very, very good, but is let down by sort of the teams that he currently has. Whereas Janemba is kind of eaten with the teams that, in terms of the extreme teams that are the best at the moment. Janemba fits like very nicely on those. So Yeah, definitely very, very good. So, yeah, that brings us to the end of the new units that we got, the EZAs. I guess we could talk about it a little bit as well because it hadn't happened when we did the last episode. But what were your thoughts overall on the April Fools, like the Cell taking over the game? We got the new logo. Well, I say new, right? Different color, but the new logo, the trailer, the teasers with the whole like puzzle that had to be solved. What were your thoughts on all of that stuff for April Fool's Day?
I just think it's cool. Just a
Hmm.
nice little difference thing compared to usual. Not really much to say about it, but enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff I like to see when they do stuff like that, right? It's just something a little bit more interesting. Um, Now the big question, of course, is did you figure out the all the puzzle and the clues all by yourself?
Well, no, because I woke up and then I saw everything was out, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I
Ah,
just did that.
yeah, fair. Yeah, I got stuck on. I can't remember which one. I got stuck. I got all the way up to the point of like where you had to figure out the friend code, and then I couldn't figure out how to do it. I could tell from the clue that that's what it was going to be. There was going to be a friend code, but I couldn't work out
Mhm.
from the wording of the clue where it's like group together, like tech AGL, STR physical. Like it's like grouped together how? Like that was the one bit that I couldn't figure out. So I ended up looking up the, yeah, I did the same thing, right? I got the periodic table out, right? Because there was that bit with the where they were using like the symbols of elements and stuff, and it was like, okay, do I need to look at like the numbers on the periodic table or something? Like stuff like that is
Yeah,
cool, where it's like people trying to work out how to do it, and it was, I guess, maybe almost overcomplicating it because it turns out that like everything you needed to know was literally in that page with like the five clues that they gave with like the five images with trunks. Like all of the clues were within there. So, but yeah, it was something a little bit fun. Obviously, they haven't mentioned it again since then, but of course, it was like a big prize draw thing. I think it ended on the 10th, was like the entry thing. Um, so some people out there will win 200 stones. A couple more people will win 100 stones. But it's like everybody who solved the puzzle like within the 10 days. So obviously by the time it had been done on the first day, I like the fact they made the point of making a post that was like, don't share the solution on social media. And then it was literally everywhere, like straight after.
yeah,
But
yeah.
But but yeah, it was something a little bit fun. I like it when they do stuff like that. So it'd be good to see something like that in the future. I was a little bit disappointed in the lead up to this celebration that they hadn't done one of those like fake game mode things again. But obviously this is what we got kind of in their place. And I thought it was pretty cool. We got the cell animations for the summoning as well. I forgot to mention that. That was cool. Um,
Yeah, that was really cool. Actually, that was a good
yeah,
thing.
it's like the cell voice line for the training thing, which I think they've done before. Did they do it with the Broly for like worldwide as well, wasn't it? Like there was some of the voice lines in game changed to cell, which was pointed out to me because I play the game mostly with the sound off. Obviously, like when I'm recording the game sound, but I can't hear it. So a couple of little bits like that, which I think were cool little touches. Stuff like that, I think would be really cool, like for the future when we have these celebrations, especially to make some of the smaller filler celebrations just that little bit more like interesting and exciting when they're themed around a specific character. Having the game being sort of like fully immersed in that character, I think is
Yeah,
very cool. So yeah, definitely good. Definitely want to see more stuff like that in the future.
I hope so. Me too.
Yeah, so that brings us to the last thing on the agenda for today, which is the part 2 LR speculation, because that will be, I think last year, I looked it up earlier and I've already forgotten exactly. I think it was the 16th of April last year was when LR Ginyu came out.
So
Um,
we know that there's gonna be a maintenance of JP tomorrow, which will
okay.
be including the LR in the maintenance, of course. So we should see the reveal in less than 12 hours
Okay. Yeah,
from right
so it'll
now
be,
as this recording.
yeah, tomorrow morning for me, so like Sunday morning, which it
On the
tracks because we've
13th.
had a lot of reveals in that time slot. Like I think LR Cell Max, it was like that exact same time slot, like Sunday morning for me here in the UK. It's like I think PST it's like 1 a.m. or something, right? And then 4 a.m. EST, something like that, is when that like news post like time slot usually is. So yeah, that'll be very interesting to see if we are, because if the unit's going to come out in the next few days, then obviously we would expect to see something very soon. So yeah, what are your thoughts? What are your predictions? Chat, let us know as well. We'll take a look. But yeah, what are you thinking? Or I guess we could come at it two different ways. It's like, what do you think is something we're likely to see, and then what is something that you would like to see, even if it's not necessarily that likely?
Okay, I got it. I want to. I think what we'll see is Angel Golden Frieza. That's my guess,
Okay.
actually, because other Road Warriors, tournament participants, and the physical Angel Golden Frieza is still waiting for an Extreme Z Awakening.
Yeah.
So I think all those pieces kind of fit together.
Okay.
Because okay, let's take a look at the EZAs, or the last three EZAs. We have physical Angel Golden Frieza, the Super Saiyan 4 into Gogeta, and then the Tech Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. If you piece all that together and kind of think about, okay, when will they EZA? Golden Week is very, I think, we all know Golden Week is going to be Daima. All right, I think we could all very easily
I
presume
think,
that.
yeah, it's the most popular speculation, right? I think.
So, okay, if we get Daima Super Saiyan 4, who's going to EZA with Daima Super Saiyan 4? Like, wow.
Could it be Int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta maybe?
Yeah, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And then let's think about what comes during the Golden Week celebration. Goku Day. Goku Gohan Goten Day. We usually get an EZA during that celebration. You know what character would fit really well in Goku Gohan and Goten Day for the celebration?
Could it be
Maybe,
LR Tech Gohan maybe?
yeah, the one where it's like family bonds, you know? Isn't that that'd be interesting, that, you know, that just throwing that out there. And then we still have the mystery of physical Angel Golden Frieza.
Yeah.
Where's that boy? What's he doing? Maybe he is like, maybe we get a Frieza as the May Dokkan Fest and they save him, or a Tournament of Power character. But I think that they'll just drop a Angel Golden Frieza right now, because one, we haven't had an Angel Golden Frieza that's Angel Golden Frieza since 2017. The Int one was the last time we got one.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of good animations, and they like Tournament of Power, and he would work well with the LR that released during the anniversary. Like, there's a lot of stuff that can happen with that, that I think it just makes a lot of sense to me. And then they just finished knocking out all those 2020 EZAs, you know? So that's kind of like me piecing together a bunch of things, and I think it's a likely possibility. Now, if we're going with what I do want Frieza. If we're going like with the more realistic approach, or like, you know, like the approach that people will want to see, it's probably going to be that Bye Guys Cell Games Goku, just because that Cell release. But a lot of times, this April Part 2 LR doesn't fit what released with the Dokkan Fest. Like, a lot of people, last year we had Topo, then we had Ginyu. The year before was it Kale?
Yeah.
It was Kale. Then we had Super Boo. The year before, I think it was Raditz, and then the what's it called? Then we did get the Saiyan Saga Goku Piccolo. But then the year before that was Videl, and then we got LR Tapion Minosha. Like, most of the time, the Part 2 LR doesn't match up exactly with what the Part 1 Dokkan Fest was.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the assumption that while Super Saiyan Goku is still very possible, they're probably going to drop a character that's like from a completely different saga. Or maybe it could just be a completely unrelated character, not even on his leader skill. Right?
Yeah.
I would say, though, I guess, you know, it would fit, like, Ginyu Force did fit special pose, things like that. So it would make a lot of sense if it was still a tournament participants character.
Yeah.
Super Boo was on transformation boost for
Yeah, that's true, because he was like technically on her team, I think. But yeah, obviously not a Universe 6 character, not a good link partner. Just like, yeah, very odd choice for her Part 2 LR.
Yeah.
But yeah, who would you most want to see, even if it's unlikely?
Who I want to see? LR Bacterian. Let's go now. Okay, I actually have to look through tournament participants. You know what? Give me a PyCon. Give me an LR PyCon. I'd be chill with that. I would be chill. Or Hit. Actually, no, yeah, make it Hit. I don't think Hit's coming, but I would really like a Hit. Maybe Hit, and then LR God Goku and Hit EZA.
Yep. Yeah, that would
That'd be
work
pretty
really
sick.
nicely.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, no, I would say the one I would want would be a hit because I think I like hit, and
Hmm.
then he hasn't got a new card in a while. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think in terms of what is likely to be seen, I really do like that Angel Freezer. One I hadn't really thought of him. A big one that I know a lot of people do want to see, and I think makes a lot of sense. Obviously, this is where we run into risky territory, right? In making assumptions that something that Dokkan does will make sense. But MVP 17 as the Part 2 LR, obviously being on tournament participants. He's also an android, which means he would be on Cell's full 220% leader skill. But it's also the fact that, like you said, with Tournament of Power, like the anniversary, a lot of people were speculating when we sort of figured out the whole thing with like the size of the pictures on the roadmap and stuff like that. And we knew we were going to get another sort of like Dragon Ball Super LR for part 2. A lot of people wanted to see a new like Goku and Frieza, but like including MVP 17 as well. And of course, he was completely absent from the Goku and Frieza card. So him getting his own separate yellow coin LR, like just after the anniversary, I think makes a lot of sense. Because if he was based around being on tournament participants, obviously being an android, like he could be good on Cell's team, but he'd also be good on the reps of Universe 7 team or Universe Survival Saga team. Because like he could have one of those things similar to like Pycon or Beast Gohan, where he has a unit super that isn't like, it's not a big deal if you don't get it. It just gives like a little bit of an extra. Like Pycon's just gives him effective against all types, which is obviously good, but it's not like a make or break thing, right? Like he gets his defense on his normal super regardless. And then I think Beast is kind of the same, right? Beast gets the I think maybe he only gets the action break and then effective against all types if it's the unit super. But he still gets the stats and everything, so it doesn't matter if you're not getting it. But yeah, the MVP 17 could have like a unit super with a Goku or Frieza or something where it's like the big final part of like the final trio attack against Jiren could be his unit super attack with one of them. And then obviously if he's not getting the unit super, he still has a good super attack effect, which then lets him be good on a team with the Cell and other like tournament participant characters. I think that's probably the one I think is most likely out of the ones that I would like to see. And then yeah, we talked about it. I think we might have mentioned it briefly when we were talking about Super Kaioken Goku. I know we mentioned it before we started, but yeah, like a transforming Super Kaioken Goku, I think would be cool. As we said when we talked about him, now that they finally remembered he exists, having like a new version of him in the game would be cool. Maybe like an angel Super Saiyan Goku that then transforms into the Super Kaioken Goku. I think that would be cool. Because that's the one thing as well, is even if that physical Kaioken Goku EZA was like super, super busted and and it was like he was the best EZA TUR in the game, because he's so old, like his super attack animation is not very good, right? It's like very, very outdated. So having a new Super Kaioken Goku, I think would be awesome. And yeah, the fact that you'd have a battle motion as well, like dude, that could be crazy with like the combined auras and everything. Like,
Someone brought up a good point. Android 17 with the Frieza unit super,
yeah,
he would fit the 200% for Cell. Because Angel going to Frieza, like the int one that came out, he fits accelerated battle, but that's because of Goku. Like
yeah,
Angel going to Frieza usually doesn't fit accelerated battle.
yeah.
Um, but a 17 would fit the Android portion, and he would fit Cell's 220%,
I think MVP
and he'd be
17's
tournament
on accelerated
participants.
battle as well.
Well, yeah, but like it doesn't matter because it's on Androids.
Yeah. I'm just saying for like just other teams as well, right? Like,
Yeah, like L'Oreal's team.
yeah, exactly. Our goat just keeps getting better and better.
So like, I mean, hold up, is he on accelerated battle? Let me double. I'm gonna hashtag fact check that. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think he is. I'd have to double
Let me
check.
see. 17. He is not on accelerated battle.
Damn you, MVP 17. But yeah, I think that could be really good. Just a really good, make him like a really good tournament participants support, or make him like, I don't know, tournament participants.
Oh, he's on
or
Battle Wits. So
Androids
he's
or
on
something.
L'Oreal's team.
Yes, let's go. See, there we go. But yeah, I think that would make him really good. Give him a unit super with a Goku or a Frieza. And then yeah, he could be very good for Cell's team and the Reps of Universe 7 team. But yeah, otherwise, I do like the idea of a hit and then getting the God Goku and hit EZA. I think that's a good one.
Yep.
And yeah, PyCon, we've mentioned it already. Some people mentioned it in the chat, but like a costume change PyCon, right, where he takes off the turban, because we haven't had a costume change unit for, I don't know, the longest time now, right? Was the last one literally the AGL Super Saiyans from the Cooler Worldwide? Because Krillin and Gohan definitely came out before them.
I don't know.
I think it is, but yeah, so that would be cool, because then obviously that would allow him to link with the other Pycons, because Pycon is one of those characters like Piccolo was before we finally got the Power Awakened Piccolo, and like Beerus was before we finally got the Pajama Piccolo for Pajama Beerus for the anniversary, like where they all just have the same name. So if the Part 2 LR is just a straight up Pycon, then obviously he doesn't then work with like the AGL one or anything. So a costume change one I think would be very, very good. And then yeah, the other one I've seen a lot of people mention is Bojack, because obviously I think it's funny the fact that the Bojack characters are actually on tournament participants, because if you think about, like, they don't really participate in the tournament. They just kind of kill the dudes that were in the tournament and then jump the Z fighters. But I don't, like, surely if you the official tournament holder surely doesn't recognize them as being official participants in the tournament. But hey, either way, they make it onto the category. So new Bojack would be interesting. We don't have a standalone full power Bojack. We haven't had one for a very, very long time, right? Because I feel like the STR EZA one is probably still somewhat usable, but obviously doesn't have like a perfect team set up at the moment. So
I mean, yeah, Bojack. I mean, it would be really nice if these yellow coin LRs were actually leaders, and then we could actually talk about, like, oh, this could introduce a new team. But realistically, I'm expecting 150% or 170%. Even if we have the new leader skill.
I was going to ask you about that, because obviously with the new leader skill meta changing, and we know that Carnival LRs have gone to 220, all the new Dokkan Fest post ECA have been that 200/170 mix, and then the plus 50. So we're kind of at the 220 mark. Are you expecting? Because I don't think we're going to see anything like super crazy, but I feel like at a bare minimum now, yellow coin LRs should be like 170, but
should be. Well, they know. I mean, they didn't buff them when we went to 200%, so
yeah. I think that's I mean, I guess that's another reason why they just need that, like, one now, right? Because they didn't do it then.
I mean, yeah, but like, we'll see what happens. I could see like a 170% for like a category like Otherworld Warriors, but if it was like Space Traveling Warriors, I doubt it.
I think it's one of those things, because it's like 170 leads are still viable in the in-game content, but with the crazy HP that some of the bosses are having now, like, if you're not running a 220 team, then like you're in for the long haul in some of these events. So like even a 170 lead, you could argue, like if you're running a double 170 lead team, like depending on who's actually on the team and what units you have to choose from, you could argue that that isn't good enough as a leader skill anymore. So at like a bare minimum, 170 I think should be the way that yellow coin LRs are going forwards. But I guess it kind of has always been a thing. I've always looked at yellow coin LRs this way, where I don't really care that much about their leader skill, because most of the time, because they've always been lower than the current meta standard, you're more so just looking at the unit itself, and it's like, how well are they going to fit on like these other teams that I am going to run, right? So it's not the end of the world if they don't have like a new sort of level, like meta competitive leader skill, but I do think it would be a bit disappointing if it's just like 150 again. But I guess we will have to see. So any other thoughts about the Part 2 LR? Any other random speculations you want to throw out? Or let's see, we've got in the chat Cell Juniors.
Yeah, no, I can't really think of any at the top of my head.
Kefla,
it really could.
Is a big one, I know, because obviously we had that Kefla art thing. That's been a thing for God knows.
I hope that never comes. Yeah, I just think it'd be that'd be so funny. Yeah,
that one random thing that got posted and then reposted, and ever since then, it's like, oh, it's new Kefla art. We're gonna get a new Kefla soon, and then it's been how long since that came out? Like And we've still not
Yeah.
gotten one. Yeah, that'd be unfortunate. Mr. Satan. I mean, the tournament participants character technically, but yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. As we said, we could find out as early as tomorrow if this data download on JP. Because obviously if the LR is going to come out later this week, unless they're planning on doing another one, it means the Part 2 LR would have to be in that data download, right? So I guess we will see. Is there a giant ape tournament character? We're still missing the giant. Oh yeah, the thing of like the active skill in all 3 slots that we still have never gotten. I guess he could be like a Kid Goku, maybe. But
I'm gonna guess, but I don't know.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see when that's finally gonna surface as well. But yeah, I guess we'll find out hopefully as early as tomorrow. But I guess it is a case of just having to wait and see. So if there's nothing else to go over here, we'll go through the quick couple of super chats that we got during the episode. Oh yeah, Bergamo. People have been joking about like LR Trio de Dangers, I think, ever since like Bergamo came out, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
Bergamo got that.
Maybe
like,
they will. Who knows?
Bergamo got that like way overly good at the time for no reason, like Awakening. So imagine if they did that and then gave him a crazy EZA as well. That would be pretty funny. But yeah, so we got a couple of super chats here from you guys. Shout out to everyone that came out for the live episode. Make sure you join us. It's our new time slot now on Saturday, every other Saturday. Keep an eye out. We will make sure for the next episode that we get a Trash Takes post up and stuff like that. But shout out to everyone who came out for the live episode. Shout out to the couple of people that dropped some support. We have the Philip Rodriguez with the $5 super chat. It says, "Don't worry, Super Baby Dokkan Fest will save villains." Nervous smile. I mean, I think that was probably, he's got to be moving up in that list now as being like probably the number one most wanted like Extreme Dokkan Fest, right? Like,
I mean, he's definitely like the one that people most want at this point.
And the fact that we got the Goku, like we finally got the Goku, right? Like the first Super Saiyan 4 transformation Goku, and it was as part of the anniversary and not as part of a Dual Dokkan Fest with Baby. I feel like a lot of people now really were just left waiting for finally getting this Baby Dokkan Fest, because he's on a lot of good categories. He's got a good link set. Yeah, that'll definitely be a very good addition to the game. Then we also have one from Philip Rodriguez for $2 super chat. He says, AGL Pycon, the OG savior of Red Zone Broly. A funny thing is, I remember it being the fact that he was the guy that came out that made like Super AGL, Extreme Super Battle Road, really easy to do, because obviously he had the like, even though Connected Hope wasn't necessarily the best setup, he had like the super sub lead, and then obviously could seal, could dodge, was giving the support. So yeah, definitely very, very good. He's second, so I said he's second on the dev list. I'm talking about Baby, I assume. He's second on the devs list behind Kid Buu, so he's actually never coming. Yeah, that's another one somebody mentioned actually, because Cell's leader skill is Worldwide Chaos, and then Accelerated Battle, which Kid Buu is on both of those categories. So maybe LR Kid Buu finally for part 2. I mean, that would be so funny if he finally dropped and he was just like a random part 2 LR or something. Like,
I mean, yeah, you know what? Whatever.
maybe one day, but
I said that when I was like wanting it to be what's it called? I wanted this to be like a sworn enemy celebration. That's what I said, but now like I don't really care.
Yeah, because like combinations of like him having like Worldwide Chaos, sworn enemies, or like artificial life forms would have been such a good like leader skill setup for him for actually making like strong extreme teams. But unfortunately, they went the tournament participants route, so it is what it is. But yeah, shout out to Philip. We also have one from Mega Nice here. It says, okay, hear me out. Cell team, you get Cell and the GOAT LR Anarasa on turn 1. You float Anaraza and sacrifice Cell. Boom. Your next turn has a free scouter. Let me cook. I can't remember I'm guessing is Anaraza. Does he have a scouter, or is it like an HP restriction? I can't even remember. I genuinely can't remember what he does.
I don't remember, and I don't care.
Yeah, who remembers this guy? This guy Mega Nice out here. Anaraza, let's have a look. What's he doing? Does he have a scouter?
Dude, maybe?
I'm just trying to look at his kit. He foresees enemy super, activates the entrance animation when there's a final trump card or super boss's ally on the team. He has a scouter for 3 turns. I'm not sure what that has to do with Cell getting taken out, and then you having a free scout. Oh, I guess he gets the scouter for 3 turns. But so you get the scouter on the first turn, get Cell to put Cell in the slot where you know he's going to die, so he gets the revival straight away, and then on your next 2 turns you have a scouter. I'm not really sure if that like little bit of tech makes it worth running Anaraz on any teams though. But yeah, I mean, he is on tournament participants, which I was about to say, is he even on any of Cell's teams? Because I remember so little about this guy. I forgot that, of course, he is from the Tournament of Power. I literally got the 1 copy of him to try him out for a video at 55%, saw how terrible he was, and then have not bought any of the extra copies from the Battlefield shop. So, with how limited the Battlefield currency is now, I think I probably won't buy anything again until we get like the next EZA, and then only if that EZA is good, which I think, isn't it supposed to be the next one's going to be like the Shadow Dragons, and they're not even going to have a team. So
I mean, maybe they will. Maybe Baby will come out by then, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Baby, Super Easy STR Mega, Super 17 Easy, like, you know, let him cook.
Oh man, because that's the thing, is GT Bosses is a team that just needs so much, like it needs so many buffs. It, like, you can't just bring out like 1 unit and be like, okay, now this team is good, right? Like, oh, it's going to take a lot of work. but there we go. So shout out to you guys for the super chats. We appreciate the support for the podcast. So that is going to wrap it up for this week, episode 64. Obviously the part 2 LR, as we say, we will know within the next few days who that is going to be. And then of course Golden Week is the end of the month. I should have pulled up the thing. I guess I can pull up the Cell and Goku because they're on the front page for the wiki, just to double check the date. Yeah, it was the 27th. So Golden Week is around the 27th. The next episode will be on the 26th. So that means we will either have the Golden Week units will already be out, or we should at the very least know who they are going to be and potentially have seen their kits by then. So the next episode will be a bit of a start of Golden Week special. And we'll be able to go over all the stuff that we know at that point. Like I say, the units might even be out by then, but it depends when they date it compared to the previous years. So yeah, that is going to be it for this episode. We appreciate you all coming out. I've been the Masked Ningen. I've been joined by Minato's Flash. Hopefully Vilify will be back next time. Anything else you want to say before we close out the show?
Nah. Good luck on your summons if you summon this week, but save for Golden Week.
Yeah, I think even whoever the part 2 LR is, obviously it's going to be a yellow coin LR. It's going to have the pity, which obviously we didn't mention. Obviously, by the time the next episode's out, that unit will have come and gone and we can talk about them. But probably not a great idea to summon. But yeah, we will see you guys in 2 weeks' time for the Golden Week stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Peace out.